Samantha, he says with a heavy humor, I'm in the middle of rather important business here. Important to me, at any rate. He glances around the table and the three men laugh sycophantically. It's very urgent, I say. It won't take long. Samantha, please, Mr. Geiger, I need to speak to you. At last, Eddie exhales in exasperation, puts down the pen. All right. He gets up and ushers me out of the room. What is it? He demands. I stare back at him dumbly. Now I've got him out here. I have no idea how to bring up the subject. What can I say? Mr. Geiger, I would recommend reviewing Clause 14. Mr. Geiger, your liabilities are not sufficiently protected. It's impossible. Who takes legal advice from their housekeeper? His hand is on the doorknob. This is my last chance. Do you take sugar? I blurt out. What? I couldn't remember, I mumble, and I didn't want to draw attention to your sugar consumption in public. Yes, I take 1 lump, says Eddie testily. Is that all? Well, yes, there was something else. It looks like you're signing some papers in there. That's right, he frowns. Private papers. Of course, I swallow. I was just remembering. You told me always to be very careful with legal documents. Eddie laughs jovially. You don't need to worry. I'm not a fool. I do have a lawyer. Yes, sir. I think quickly for another way. Only I couldn't help thinking of a time that Lady Edgarly signed up to some kind of investment, I think it was. And afterwards she told me that she wished she got a second opinion. I look into his eyes, willing the message to get through. Consult a decent lawyer, you stupid schmuck. Very thoughtful of you to be concerned, Samantha. Eddie gives me a pat on the shoulder, then opens the door and strides back in. Where were we, gentlemen? I watch in dismay as he picks up the pen again. He's going to get fleeced. But not if I can help it. Your coffee, Mr. Geiger, I murmur, hurrying into the room. I pick up the pot, start pouring, then accidentally on purpose drop it on the table. Ah! Jesus! There's total mayhem as the coffee spreads in a dark brown lake over the table, soaking into papers and dripping onto the floor. The contract! Shouts Mr. Chiseled in annoyance. You stupid woman! I'm really sorry, I say in my most flustered voice. I'm really, really sorry. The coffee pot just slipped. I start mopping the coffee with the tissue, making sure to spread it over all the remaining paperwork. Do we have any copies? Asks the red-haired man, and I look up, alert. They were all on the bloody table, says Mr. Chiseled in exasperation. We'll have to get them printed out again. He looks at Eddie. Can you make tomorrow? Actually, Eddie clears his throat. Not tomorrow. I think I want a little more time. Just want to make sure it's all shipshape. Might even get another opinion to be on the safe side. No offense, Martin. None taken, says Martin amiably, reaching for a chocolate biscuit. The visitors exchange looks. Of course, says the chiseled-looking man after a long pause. No problem. Ha, something tells me this deal may not be happening after all. Your jacket, sir, I say with a smile, handing it to him. And again, I'm dreadfully, dreadfully sorry. The great thing about legal training is it really teaches you to lie. It also teaches you to put up with being yelled at by your boss, which is handy, because as soon as Trish hears what I've done, I'm forced to stand in the kitchen for 20 minutes while she strides around haranguing me. Mr. Geiger is putting together a very important business deal. That meeting was crucial. I'm very sorry, madam, I say, eyes downcast. I know you have no understanding of these things, Samantha, but a lot of money is at stake. Money that you probably have no conception of. Stay calm, stay humble. A lot of money, Trish repeats impressively. She's itching to tell me more. I can see the urge to show off and the urge to remain discreet, fighting it out on her face. 7 figures, she says at last. Gosh, I did my best to look awestruck. We've been very good to you, Samantha. We've made every effort. Her voice throbs with resentment. And we expect you to make every effort in return. I'm very sorry, I say for the millionth time, but Trish still seems dissatisfied. Well, I'll expect far more care tonight. Tonight? At dinner, Trish raises her eyes skyward. But I've got tonight off, I say in alarm. You said it would be okay. I could leave you a cold supper. Trish has clearly forgotten all about our conversation. Well, she says querulously, that was before you threw coffee over our guests. That was before you spent all morning sitting about having your hair done. What? That is so unfair. I can't even find a response. Frankly, Samantha, I expect a little better. You will stay in tonight and serve dinner. She picks up a magazine and strides out of the kitchen. I stare after her, the familiar heavy resignation creeping over me. This has happened so many times in my life. I'm used to it. I'll have to call off my date with Nathaniel, another date, another cancellation. And then my thoughts stop mid-track. I'm not at Carter Spink anymore. I don't have to put up with this. I stalk out of the kitchen and find Trish in the living room. Mrs. Geiger, I say as forcefully as I can, I'm sorry about the coffee, and I'll make every effort to do better, but I have to have tonight off. I've made arrangements, and I'm going to stick to them. I'll be going out at 7 as planned. My heart is beating fast as I finish. I've never asserted myself like that before in my life. If I'd ever spoken like that at Carter Spink, I'd have been dead meat. For a moment, Trish looks livid. Then, to my astonishment, she gives an irritated click with her tongue and turns a page. Oh, very well, if it's that important. Yes, I swallow. It's important. My personal life is important. As I say the words, I feel stirred up. I almost want to say something more to Trish, something about priorities, about balance. But Trish is already engrossed in an article on the red wine diet and how it can work for you. I'm not sure she'd appreciate being disturbed. I'm putting the finishing touches to a cold roasted vegetable salad for the Geiger supper when Trish comes into the kitchen. She opens the fridge, peers into it, then closes the door, looking dissatisfied. She leans against the counter, watching me work, until I start feeling twitchy. Can I get you anything, Mrs. Geiger? No, you just carry on. She picks up a vegetable parer and twirls it around in her hands. Mrs. Geiger, I gesture that I need the parer, and she hands it over with a tisk of irritation. You have such a simple life, Samantha, she says with a sigh, so untroubled. Yes, madam, I say after a pause, if you only knew. Trish moves to the window and gives another gusty sigh. Mr. Geiger will be out this evening, so you only need to make one cold supper. Right. I have the feeling that if I point out I've already made a salad for 2, she'll bite my head off. She definitely looks out of sorts, standing there, running her finger up and down the window pane. Maybe I should make conversation. Nathaniel told me you used to run a business, Mrs. Geiger, say, carving strips off a huge chunk of Parmesan. Road haulage? That must have been interesting. Oh, yes, it was our life. You must have worked hard, I prompt. We built it up from scratch, you know, Mr. Geiger and I. She suddenly looks animated. By the end, we had a staff of 30. Contracts with every major supermarket chain in the country. You'll have seen our lorries on the road, red with a black flash. Those are yours? I feel a flash of genuine interest. I've seen them on the motorway. They were ours, corrects Trish. We were made an extremely generous offer a few years ago, which naturally we took. All the animation has waned from her voice. As I sprinkle torn basil over the plate, she gazes out the window again, her face rigid. And you don't ever think about doing another job, I venture. Samantha, says Trish in her explaining things to a 3-year-old voice. Mr. Geiger and I have made our money. I am fortunate enough not to need to work. No, of course not, I say deferentially. I grind black pepper onto the salad, remembering Trisha's tears that day by the washing machine. I can't help feeling a bit sorry for her. She obviously has no idea what to do with all her time, and Eddie doesn't help being out on the golf course all day. You know, Lady Eggerly didn't have a job either, I say casually as I put cling wrap on the salad dish and place it in the fridge. But of course she kept busy with her charity work. Charity work? Echoes Trish after a pause. What sort of charity work? All sorts. Fundraisers, charity lunches. She said if she hadn't had those to occupy her, she would have gone stir-crazy, doing nothing all day except filing her nails and having her hair done. Although, obviously, that's nothing like you. I backtrack as Trish turns round. You've got, loads going on. Absolutely. Trish lifts her chin defensively. I have many interests and occupations. People envy me my full life, you know, Samantha. I'm sure they do, madam. It was just a thought. I bob a curtsy and head out of the kitchen. At the door, I glance back. Trish is standing in exactly the same place.